Hello students, today we are going to read the first chapter from your supplementary reader, Footprints Without Feet. The name of the chapter is A Triumph of Surgery. We'll be reading this chapter in two parts. Let me give you a brief introduction about the author. James Alfred White, known by the pen name James Herriot, was a British veterinary surgeon and writer who used many years of experience as a veterinary surgeon to write a series of books, each consisting of stories about animals and their owners. He is best known for these semi-autobiographical works, and beginning with If Only They Could Talk in 1970, which spawned a series of movies and television series. Introduction of the lesson. James Herriot was a vet. He loved dogs and had a number of experiences with the dogs and their owners. He has given very interesting accounts of his expressions. In this lesson, he tells his experience with a rich lady, Mrs. Pumphrey. She loved her dog and overfed him. The dog was seriously ill. He treated the dog without medicines and surgery. Mrs. Pumphrey, she was wealthy woman. She loved her dog too much. She gave him some little extras between the meals to build him up: malt, cod liver oil, and a bowl of Horlicks at night. She gave him lot to eat, but no exercise. Once he became ill, and she was worried and made a frantic call to Harriet, who was a vet. James already gave suggestions regarding Tricky's balanced diet, but she never followed it. James Herriot, a vet, he was a vet. He was shocked to see hugely fat, like a bloated sausage with a leg at each corner. He already advised her to cut down on the sweet things. He expected a call came within few days, and he was called by Mrs. Pumphrey as Tricky refused to eat. He told her that Tricky needed immediate hospitalization for keeping under observation at his surgery for a fortnight. There he gave him no food, no medicine, but plenty of water. Gradually he mixed with other dogs and started playing with them. He had a lot of exercise and fun at the surgery. Tricky, a dog. It was a small dog and was excessively loved by his mistress, Mrs. Pumphrey. He was greedy and loved food, but no exercise. As a result, he became fat. Mrs. Pumphrey believed that he became lazy because he suffered from malnutrition. Dog's recovery is a triumph of surgery. He was completely recovered and transformed into a hard-muzzled dog. James Herriot treated the dog without medicine or surgery. She was happy and filled with gratitude. She thanked Herriot and said it was a triumph of surgery. Now, shall we read the lesson, children? Yes, page number 1, A Triumph of Surgery. I was really worried about Tricky this time. I had pulled up my car. Pulled up here, what is the meaning of pulled up? Stopped my car when I saw him in the street with his mistress, and I was shocked at his appearance. He had become hugely fat, like a bloated sausage with a leg at each corner. His eyes, bloodshot and rheumy, stayed straight ahead, and his tongue lolled from his jaws. Mrs. Pumphrey hastened to explain. He was so listless, Mr. Herriot. He seemed to have no energy. I thought he must be suffering from malnutrition. So I have been giving him some little extras between meals to build him up. Some malt and cod liver oil and a bowl of Horlicks at night to make him sleep. Nothing much really. And did you cut down on the sweet things as I told you? Oh, I did for a bit, but he seemed to be so weak. I had to relent. He does love cream cakes and chocolate, so I can't bear to refuse him. I looked down again at the little dog. That was the trouble. Tricky's only fault was greed. He never had been known to refuse food. He would tackle a meal at any hour of the day or night. And I wondered about all the things Mrs. Pumphrey hadn't mentioned. Are you giving him plenty of exercise? Well, he has little walks with me, as you can see, but Hodgkin, the gardener, has been down with lumbago, so there has been no ring throwing lately. Now, let us discuss the word meanings, children. Bloated, excessive in size or amount, sausage, an item or food in the form of cylindrical length of minced pork or other meat encased in a skin, typically sold raw to be grilled or fried before eating. Bloodshot here, inflamed and tinged with blood, typically as a result of tiredness. Rheumy, watery. Lolled, meaning is sit, lie, stand in a lazy way or relaxed way. Here in this text, it means hanging out. Hastened. What is hastened? Be quick to do something. Listless, lacking energy or enthusiasm. Malnutrition, lack of proper nutrition. Relent, become less severe or intense. Lumbago, pain in the muscles or joints of the lower back. Now coming to the explanation, the narrator starts telling us that how he was worried about Tricky, a pet dog. The narrator, Mr. Harriet, stops his car as he sees Tricky with his mistress on the road. As the narrator is shocked to see Tricky because he looks like a bloated sausage. He has become very fat, his eyes are red and watery. Mrs. Pumphrey, Tricky's owner, starts giving explanation. She told Harriet that she thought that Tricky was malnutritioned because he did not have any energy and excitement. She told him that she used to give him malt, cod liver oil, and a bowl of Horlicks at night, apart from his regular meals, so that he could sleep at night. Although she gave him so much to eat, she says that she doesn't give him much to eat. Then the narrator asks her if she had cut down on his sweets as he had asked her to do, to which she replies that she did it for a while, but she felt that he was getting weaker, because of which she had to stop being so harsh with him. Also, she says that she is unable to refuse him cakes and chocolates, as those were his favorite things. Then the narrator understood Tricky's problem. The dog was very greedy and could eat at any time of the day. He did not know how to say no to food when his stomach was full. The narrator also thought of himself of all the things that Mrs. Pumphrey would not have mentioned, which she fed Tricky. Again, the narrator asked Mrs. Pumphrey whether Tricky was exercising, to which Mrs. Pumphrey replies that she does take him out for walks once in a while, but he's not playing his ring throwing exercise, as the gardener who takes him out to play is not coming these days because of pain in his lower back. Now coming to the next page, page number 2. I try to sound severe. Now I really mean this. If you don't cut his food right down and give him more exercise, he's going to be really ill. You must harden your heart and keep him on a very strict diet. Mrs. Pumphrey wrung her hands. Oh, I will, Mr. Harriet. I'm sure you're right. But it is so difficult, so very difficult. She set off, head down along the road, as if determined to put the new regime into practice immediately. I watched their progress with growing concern. Tricky was tottering along in his little tweed, tottering, moving in an unsteady way. Tweed is woolen. He had a whole wardrobe of these coats for the cold weather and a raincoat for wet days. He struggled on, drooping here, hanging in his harness. Harness is strap. I thought it wouldn't be long before I heard from Mrs. Pumphrey. The expected call came within a few days. Mrs. Pumphrey was distraught. What is distraught? Worried and upset. Tricky would not eat anything, refused even his favorite dishes, and besides, he had bouts of vomiting. He spent all his time lying on a rug, panting, breathing with difficulty. Didn't want to go for walks, didn't want to do anything. I had made my plans in advance. The only way was to get Tricky out of the house for a period. I suggested that he be hospitalized for about a fortnight to be kept under observation. The poor lady almost swooned. She was sure he would pine and die if he did not see her every day. But I took a firm line. Tricky was very ill, and this was the only way to save him. In fact, I thought it best to take him without delay, and followed by Mrs. Pumphrey's wailing, I marched out of the car carrying the little dog wrapped in a blanket. The entire staff was roused, and maids rushed in and out, bringing his day bed, his night bed, his favorite cushions, toys and rubber rings, breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, supper bowl. Realizing that my car would never hold all the stuff, I started to drive away. As I moved off, Mrs. Pumphrey, with a despairing cry, threw an armful of the little coats through the window. I looked in the mirror before I turned the corner of the drive. Everybody was in tears. Out on the road, I glanced down at the pathetic little animal gasping on the seat by my side. I patted the head, and Tricky made a brave effort to move his tail. Poor old lad, I said, you haven't a kick in you, but I think I know a cure for you. Now let us discuss the word meanings. Tottering, moving in a unsteady way. Tweed is woolen. Here L is missing, children. Drooping, hanging. Strap is harness. The other way I have given. Distraught is worried or upset. Bouts is fits. Panting, breathing heavily. Breathing with difficulty. Swooned, lost her consciousness. Wailing is crying. Despairing, disappointing. Pathetic, pitiable, and gasping again is panting, breathing with difficulty. Here the narrator tried to talk to Mrs. Pumphrey little seriously, that she did not control Tricky's eating habits and increased his exercise. He would soon fall ill if suppose if he is not if his eating habits are not controlled. He would soon fall ill. She told her that she should stay strong and strict with him and put him on a diet. Mrs. Pumphrey accepted that, although she knew that Mr. Harriet was right, but it was difficult for her to refuse him for anything. But then she left the place as if she was now ready to follow the new routine properly. Mr. Harriet was watching them go and looking at Tricky walking unsteadily. The narrator was also looking at the tweed, the bullet coat that Tricky was wearing. He had a wardrobe full of these coats and also raincoats of the rainy day. For the rainy day. This line also suggests that Mrs. Pumphrey was a rich lady and she had a lot of money to spend on her dog. But the narrator knew that soon he would be receiving calls from about Tricky falling ill, and it came. The call came after a few days. Mrs. Pumphrey was very upset as Tricky was not eating anything, not even his favorite dishes, and was vomiting frequently. He didn't even want to do anything. Being a veterinary doctor, the narrator knew that the only way to get Tricky well was to get him out of the house for a few days. He then suggested to Mrs. Pumphrey that it would be good to get Tricky hospitalized and keep him under observation for 15 days. Upon hearing this, Mrs. Pumphrey nearly fainted. She was sure that if Tricky would not see her every day, he would surely die. But the narrator kept his words. He told her that this was the only option as Tricky was very ill. The narrator thought it would be best to avoid any delays and get him to the hospital as soon as possible. He went to their house, and even though Mrs. Pumphrey was crying because she did not want her dog to go away from her, she took the dog, wrapped it in a blanket, and put him in the car. For that, the entire staff, the maids were then woken up, and they were asked to get all Tricky's the stuff. His stuff included the things like his bed, day bed, night bed, favorite cushions, toys. What else? Rubber rings, breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, and his snacks bowls. And Mr. Harriet knew that so much stuff won't fit in his car, so he started rushing things. As the doctor was leaving with Tricky, Mrs. Pumphrey threw a lot of coats that Tricky used to wear in the car. As the narrator was turning the car, on the turn he saw through the rear mirror that everyone was crying. He patted the little dog. He patted the little helpless animal, the dog, who responded. How did he respond? By wagging his tail. The narrator then thought and told Tricky that he knew that Tricky did not have any energy, but he surely had a way to get him better. With this, we come to the end of part 1 of this lesson. Children, thank you for watching this video. Stay home, stay healthy.